Welcome, guys, to the Wonder Lot Pod on Talking Devils, the leading Manchester United podcast. I'm Harry, your host, season ticket holder at Old Trafford in the Stretford End, and joined, of course, by Stephen once again. He's a lifelong United fan and has got his season ticket for 25 years in the East Stand. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, please feel free to add a comment or a question. All of those are welcome. And if you're watching this back on any of the podcast platforms, Spotify, etc., please do subscribe, put in some comments as well. Always happy to get back to you at a later stage. Right, so today, obviously, the Bayern Munich game is coming up, and we'll get to that at a certain point. But obviously, another defeat for United on the weekend. And really today, I think what we wanted to discuss is, ultimately and truly, have all of these external factors started to have an effect on the team. And there's no other way to sugarcoat it, on this platform. I like to think we say it as it is, don't shout and scream like the other guys. But if there are problems, I think they need to be addressed. And I don't think these words are used too kind of out of context or too kind of dramatically. But I think potentially we have to ask a question if the club has got to a point of potential disarray. And when I mean disarray, there's just so much going on. I'll bullet point them, and we'll all, me and Steve will go through them in detail. First and foremost, obviously, the Glazers put the club up for sale just over a year ago. Any kind of process like that creates a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of negativity around Maguire for years now, almost for 2 years plus. The David De Gea exit was handled poorly. Why I mention that, there must be players, sitting in the dressing room, maybe looking at, okay, De Gea, was time to leave, but what if I spend a large amount of my time at this football club? Is that how I'm going to be treated? Obviously, we had the Greenwood issue, swiftly followed by the disciplinary problem with Sancho, swiftly followed by Anthony being suspended. And I just personally feel, look, by no means am I saying, Ten Hag has come to a point where, he might need to basically give up the job or he needs to be sacked. Nothing like that. But I believe there's only a certain amount of external factors, or like Fergie used to call them, noise factors, that a manager can deal with. And I just think maybe it's just getting slightly too much for him. So Steve, obviously, all of those points I just mentioned, do you think those are excuses, or do you think, they are actually having an impact on the club and ultimately on performances?
Yeah, I think it has to be. There's obviously a lot that has gone on outside of anyone's control, i.e., mostly the disciplinary actions and the Glazers. Obviously, no one in the squad, no one in the management team could do anything about that. So yeah, I mean, if people are trying to get on with their job and there's staff being coaching them, who might be thinking, am I gonna be fired or moved on if we get new owners, or if these guys are staying, the Glazers are staying at the club, are they gonna start cutting money even more than they already have done, and then are more people going to be out of contract and out of pocket as well? And it's just a big cloud of uncertainty over everyone. And yeah, I can see how players might be disillusioned, especially with people, like you mentioned, De Gea being treated the way he was treated. Again, I don't think that is going to come from management. I think it'll be from the people higher up, the CEO, the people who look after the commercials, all of that stuff that is clearly rubbish compared to some other clubs, i.e. Brighton, who get everything right. It's like whoever's in charge of them is Midas or something like that. It's absolutely everything is just turned, and
tell me about
they look like the best run club going at the moment. And where's that come from? So yeah, there's a lot to discuss and a lot to excuse, really. But yeah, it's a farce. It's a shambles. One more thing, the club have. I think they ran out of, or didn't even order any O's in the Hoyland.
Oh yeah,
in the Hoyland shirt.
With the I don't know with the correct teams,
I mean, it's
the O with the line in it.
Top to bottom, it's pathetic. We've got a lot of injuries, which is that something because of how the medical staff have done things. I think a lot of people are talking about the fact that the pre-season was a commercial pre-season. I think we gained 50 million pounds from it, but these players are playing 8 games in 10 days or 8 games in 15 days. And they're not playing full games. They're playing 45s, and it's just very, very stop-start. And the season started tragically, with they're so unfit. They're so out of sorts. They can't be bothered. But yeah, it's just a farce at the moment, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're not the only ones. I mean, going into the season, players in, Hoyland is the only one that's looked like a bit of a breath of fresh air. Mount didn't really, set the world alight in the first couple of games that he had. And we all know the stat that's going around. Obviously, any kind of poor stats seem to be shouted from the rooftops by the media outlets about Onana, 10 shots on target, 7 goals that he's let in. But obviously we'll get to that. But I mean, going back to the point about Maguire, obviously he's been going on for so long, and he's almost like taken over from Phil Jones as the kind of joke of the football club. And I mean, things like when he got brought on against Arsenal, everyone at Arsenal started cheering. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, whether it was his fault or not, it might not be directly linked. We conceded 2 goals after, him and Johnny Evans came on. Again, do you think things like that have an impact on the rest of the team and players if there is, that sort of kind of negativity around the player?
It has to, yeah. I mean, we've had it when we had De Gea last season. Every single touch of his was nervous, and Harry Maguire isn't a confident player at the moment. There's a lot in the media about people people like his mum coming out and defending him, like what's going on? Even though they say he's a strong lad and he's got really strong mentals, it doesn't matter if you're getting cheered by opposition. You just wouldn't want to play, would you? It seems like he'd be better suited to a club which obviously is a lot lower under the radar, but it's just not been the case. I think a lot of people talk about when he stayed, is it his fault? Did he choose to stay and choose not to leave? But I think that again, I think it was on United. A lot of the stuff that I've read has kind of said that we were looking for a replacement before we let him talk to anyone else. And obviously, with the way our transfers are negotiated and how slow we are to do anything in the transfer market, the time's passed. I think West Ham signed Mavropanos from Stuttgart or from someone else. I'm not sure. It might have been Stuttgart. In the 2 or 3 days from when they bid for United, bid for Maguire. I think United accepted that bid, but then wanted to replace Maguire before he left, and it's just a shambles from top to bottom again. So if he's getting a bit of hate for being greedy, I don't think that's the case. But he shouldn't be in this first team. He shouldn't be in the squad. And it's just a big shame at the moment that Varane's injured, Martinez was injured or went off, Shaw's injured, who would all be ahead of him. Only Lindelof really is the one who is going to be constant for the next couple of weeks, because Martinez is turned into, well, he's nowhere near the levels that he was last year. It's like it's him and Casemiro. It's like they're in Space Jam.
I was just about to mention Casemiro as well. I don't know, both of those guys really seem off the pace and a shadow of a player that they were kind of last season. And I don't know, I'm not too sure about where it's coming from Martinez's perspective. I can kind of understand a couple of games with Casemiro, especially the first couple. Bruno and Mount were both pushing.
Yeah, they just left him, didn't they? Yeah,
and they left him on his own. But he's not really had that when Eriksen's played. I mean, he's had a bit more defensive cover, and he still hasn't looked great. I mean, I don't think anyone can really point their finger and pin down why that change has come. And
it really confused me, especially in the game the other day when we loaded the midfield. And I know Brighton are a fantastically coached team, and everything about their play just runs completely smoothly. But that midfield had Pascal Gross, who's 31, Adam Lallana, who's like 33 or something like that, and Casemiro, Eriksen, again over 30, McTominay doesn't track, Bruno doesn't track. So it's just, again, it's we're getting run ragged by two over 30-year-olds in a team with, a fair bit of legs in it. And I don't know what happened again. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. And it was a bit of an embarrassing moment in the press conference straight after when Ten Hag was put to him that the Brighton team was made up of about 25 million pounds, and he said, "Oh, Brighton spend as well." Or no, I think the interviewer said, "How do you feel that team is worth a lot less than yours?" He came back and said, "Well, Brighton spend a lot of money as well." To which the interviewer responded, "I think the first team cost around 20 million pounds."
Yeah.
Which, like you said, not only the managers, but it seems like whatever Brighton do, even when it comes to transfers, players coming through their academy, they genuinely just have the Midas touch at the moment.
I do think the difference, though, with Brighton, I think they're afforded a bit more luxury. That they are a bit more of an under the radar club. If they're buying players for £2 or £3 million and they get to develop them for a year and a half under the radar, turn them into top players, then move them on. If you come to United, you got to hit the ground running straight away. So it is quite different, the level of players that they're buying. I'm not sure if you read the Solskjaer interview that came out today.
I didn't see it, I'll be honest, in full detail.
Yeah,
but
he mentioned about Caicedo that we were wanted him at one point, which I think everyone knew before he even went to Brighton. And it is the case that if he joined us rather than Brighton, he wouldn't be near the first team right now, because he wouldn't be given the opportunities, and then who knows how he'd turn out. So it's one of those. Hannibal Medbury came on the other day against Brighton, looked like our best player. So if he was at Brighton, what kind of player would he turn out to be, rather than struggling for game time at United? So it really does change a player how much spotlight they're under. And I think, obviously, touching back on Maguire, if he's in a better team, if he's in a team with less of a media kind of tirade against him, is he going to turn into a much better player after he leaves? Which I think would be the case.
Yeah, I'd most probably agree with you. Basically, if he's in a team and a structure with a lot less pressure, I guess not only from the media, which isn't ideal, but I mean, obviously at United, where our fan base expects a win, or at least a performance, pretty much week in, week out. But you're right. I think with a lot of less pressure on his shoulders, he may and most likely will perform
what
better.
I can't excuse, though, is it's all well and good. Well, it's not, but say if we when we play Bayern tonight, say if we lose 3-0, but the players give everything, that you can hold your hands up and say, listen, they're better than us. But if we get beat, if we're 3-0 down against Brighton, we are better than Brighton. The players are better than the Brighton players. The lack of effort was disgraceful, in my opinion. Like that second goal with Rashford, like he's got his money now. He's got his money. He doesn't have to lift a finger anymore. And you can see the way they're walking around. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I want to shout and scream.
I mean, I think what frustrated me most about that game is, old, classic United teams under the kind of Fergie era, and even a couple of years, beyond that. If we were down in a game with 10, 15 minutes to go, especially attacking the Stretford end, I mean, Stretford end is renowned for literally shouting the ball into the net because, the old United teams would just keep on attacking until we got a goal. I mean, the last 15 minutes was an absolute disgrace. I mean, it looked like Brighton were the home team. They were like just knocking it around for fun. Yeah. We couldn't really be bothered to get the ball back. When we got the ball back, we looked terrible. I mean, I don't really have too many complaints about Ten Hag, but then, if we are a couple goals down, he tries this thing where he puts on loads of attackers and we only have 2 defenders. I don't think I've seen that ever work for us because other teams are just better than better in holding the ball than us, and we don't get any of the possession. But just in general, the lack of effort, the lack of, kind of positivity about going forward, energy, all those kind of things were just basically, the team just looked despondent. They just wanted to go in and they wanted the game to be over, which isn't the way United are meant to be playing football. And, Ten Hag always talks about standards and how the team needs to be winning and, reaching these standards. I can't really see those standards in the first kind of 5-6 games of the season, and where he's going to fix the problems, because we have so many injuries now and it is looking slightly dire. Another point, obviously, is this Sancho disciplinary issue that has come up. He's training away from the first team now. I mean, just a real kind of unnecessary noise around the football club, and something we didn't need. But do you think Ten Hag handled it correctly? Or could have been slightly more kind of lax about it?
I think, the interview that he had after the Arsenal game, I don't really think he did too much wrong. He was asked a question about it and he answered. So he didn't go out of his way to call Sancho out, with no prompt at all. So it's not exactly unreasonable to say if you don't train as well as your colleagues, you're not going to get on the squad. If people are training better than you, it doesn't matter how much you cost. Just because you cost 73 million quid and are on 250 grand a week doesn't mean you get into the squad. If anything, you got to work harder and earn it. Which if you got to trust the manager to say with his squad, even the bench and Pellistri and whoever being ahead of him, they're clearly doing more in the manager's eyes. So you have to trust that. With him going on to social media, it's ridiculous. And you got to be punished for that. Roy Keane got sacked from United, arguably one of our best ever captains, one of the best players in the treble winning season. Left a couple of years after because he called out a few of his players. And it's just, again, ridiculous. And at the end of last season, we spoke about should we get rid of Sancho in the summer if we get a bid, or how long's he got left? He hasn't got any. He's not got any time left now. I think if he can't mend things in the next few weeks and then have a good couple of months before the winter transfer window, I really wouldn't be surprised if we get rid, even on a loan for the second half of the season. So something really needs to happen with him quite soon. We need some crisis talks, really, but it seems like they've already tried to reach some sort of impasse, and he's still not apologising. So who knows what's going to happen? And again, it's just more noise that we don't want. I mentioned at the end of last season, this, for this season, I don't want one headline about United, and now we have one week. You know, it's not like we're going 3 or 4 weeks without anything happening. It's like something every single week, and even since the last game, against Brighton, we've had 2 more injuries, and it's just what is going on with this club?
I know. I mean, for me, on the Sancho issue and the problem I have with it is, we all know that he had mental issues and mental health issues last year, and it seemed like Ten Hag and the club was very supportive of that, as they should have been. And Ten Hag gave him a lot of time, a lot of help to recover, brought him back into the team, and was very supportive. And like you said, under no prompt, it wasn't as if he came out and was absolutely slating him in that interview. And to be honest, he was asked a question, and there's some certain pundits out there. Gabby and Bonhor is one who, sometimes I don't know if he calls it, calls it how it should be, but ultimately Ten Hag said that he didn't train well enough in the week, and then that's why he didn't basically be in the squad. Sancho then turned around and said, "I've been a scapegoat for so long. These are lies. If we break down his statement, and I'm sick of being a scapegoat." That word "scapegoat" has been bandied around in the media. I mean, all Ten Hag has said is he did not train well this week.
Yeah.
He didn't turn around and say, "Sancho's not in my plans. Sancho, is a terrible player. He's overpriced, or we're paying too much for him. His salary is too high," which it is. It's 350 grand a week or 300 grand a week. He's one of our top earners, and he's not training well enough. And again, on socials and the media, etc., they pick on all these things. Like supposedly Casemiro said Sancho was one of the best trainers in an interview. But if you see the interview, the question was, who is technically the best trainer at United? It wasn't who's the hardest working trainer. It said technically who's the best, and he said one of them is Sancho. So he wasn't lying, but at the same time, he wasn't saying that Sancho, is the best trainer. So that's my first issue. Secondly, obviously this has all come out, disciplinary issue, because Sancho's come out with a statement which I don't think any player should do. If he has a problem with the manager, he needs to go to the manager and sort it out. But what annoys me after that is he's obviously not gone to England, the England team, in the international break. Instead of staying at Carrington and showing, basically giving a retaliation to the manager and saying, I'm going to fight for my place. I'm going to, train and put in these sessions over the next couple of weeks. He decides to go to New York with Wan-Bissaka for, New York Fashion Week. I think funnily enough, I was in New York last week as well. Fashion Week was on. I was actually looking for him so I could, have a little chat and see if, give him a bit of a piece of my mind at the moment. But yeah, that, and he went to some kind of party. I mean, that is just the complete opposite of what Ten Hag is looking for. And that just shows and gives just the wrong signals for me anyway. And I'm sure all the United fans agree. I mean, I'm sure it's not only my opinion.
Yeah. It's what else can you say? What else can you say? You've got it bang on there. If you're not in the squad for the quality of your training, train harder. If you want to be playing football, if you want to, make a legacy for yourself at one of the biggest clubs in the world, if you want to really knuckle down and even if you want to move on, work hard, get into the team, start playing really well, and then you'll get a move to a top club. On the rate that he's going to go back to Germany for, maybe for like Leipzig or for Dortmund or something like that. Dortmund are nowhere at the moment.
15 million.
Exactly. And for a hell of a lot less wages, he's not going to get anywhere
Well,
near.
most probably do a Maguire and ask for about 50 million a year.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. He'll end up going to Saudi where he can just get some money, he can chill out, do what he wants over there, get some money, and then maybe come back and join some, a team in France or Bayern Munich where they're just going to walk the league every year. He just doesn't want to work hard, and it's that's it. It's game over. There's no more future for him at United.
Yeah. So I mean, look, with Sancho, with all we've talked about with him, the Greenwood issue as well, and with Anthony now being suspended. I mean, do you think the combination of all those things is, obviously having an effect on the culture of the club? And do you think it's just becoming too much for Ten Hag to handle in terms of the players not having the right kind of mental mindset going into football games?
It's a lot for him to handle, but it's his job to handle it. I think everyone has issues at clubs. I think there's a lot of egos in football these days and a lot of expensive players, and there's always going to be divas in dressing rooms. Do you handle that by just ignoring it and playing the players? And that's what we did with Pogba and Lingard and all that. Or do we play the players who are really showing that want to be there? But it's just time for these players, however talented they are, to start playing for the badge and just to get through it together. They're a team. They're not individuals. They know how to play football. Clearly, they just need to really knuckle down and say, listen, we're in an atrocious bit of form here. The wins that we've had this season don't look convincing at all. We've got a great group of players. They just need to work hard, and we should just stop buying right wingers. Just start playing a new formation. Play this diamond. We looked okay until the players stopped trying the other day. I think when we get Mount back, when we get Amrabat in, when we get Kobbie Mainoo back, it seems like those three have legs. And if you're going to have a midfield, let's say those three. Let's say we have a midfield diamond of Bruno at the top, Amrabat, Mainoo, and Mount. That's a hell of a lot of legs in that midfield. I know Bruno runs around like a headless chicken when he tries and presses. Højlund presses quite well as well at the top. Rashford's really going to get found out if he doesn't start pressing. More so than he already has done. So I think if we manage to get a couple of those midfielders back, keep a formation without those wingers, and stick with this diamond, I think there's a lot of joy to come, because we did start really well the other day just before Eriksen got knackered after 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And another thing to bear in mind is, I guess one thing Mount does bring is a little bit of, he brings a few options to the team, in that when he was at Chelsea, he also could play, up top as a winger. If Ten Hag wants to stick to that formation, I could well see him playing on the left and then Garnacho on the right, or vice versa. So if we're not playing in that diamond and he does want to stick to having two wingers, at least Mount brings that extra option as well, which we might well see. But you're right. First and foremost, we need the players to come back and to be fit, and see what actual quality and what level we're at. Talking about quality and level, Matt and Lisa have put in a question. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Do you think we might be a cup team this year? Me personally, we won the Carabao Cup last year. We got to the FA Cup final and were just, quite frankly, beaten comprehensively by City. Europa League, we kind of got found out by Sevilla because we weren't astute enough in terms of being clever in European football. The question is, are we good enough to even be a cup team this year? What do you think, Steve?
At the moment, no. But as you say, we're 5 games into the season. We won't win the Champions League. That's a given. We just won't. I think we got quite lucky with some of the cup draws last year. We got every early round was a home draw. Neutral, we won well against Newcastle. I don't think it was like any points of contention that we didn't deserve to win that game. We absolutely did. Had to beat Brighton on penalties in the FA Cup, but again, I think some of the lesser teams or the lower teams in that run, we were lucky to get drawn against. We're going to have to play well in cups, but again, it's just we don't want to come ninth in the league, so we're going to have to rotate a little bit more or risk more injuries and more fatigue at the end of the season. So, the transfer window is supposed to be bringing more heads into the team so that we can rotate a little bit more. And at the moment, anyone who isn't a first-team player, I know we've got four or five of our, let's say, first 11 in air quotes out, don't look anywhere near good enough. So I don't know if it's just worth completely throwing the cups and just try and focus on the league and getting into the top four. Because I think looking at Chelsea this year, they haven't got any European competition. So I know they've started badly as well, but at some point it probably will click because I think they've got a lot of injuries as well. So they're going to be making a bit of a resurgence. Tottenham seem to have done what we need to do. Get a manager in, get a load of players who work hard for the club, work hard on the pitch. They look like, they battered us in the second half a couple of weeks ago. So obviously Arsenal, City, Liverpool look all right. There's a lot of competition. I think we should really be focusing on the league and getting into the top four over the cups, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, every season the objectives change, right? I think last year was really important for us to win something, and Ten Hag to take the team through the process of winning a trophy. So, kind of done that in the Carabao. Fair enough, it's not the top kind of cup to win. So I guess looking at it now, it's like, what is a successful season? I don't think Carabao should be a focus. I think that should be for the youth team and the players that aren't getting in week in, week out. The FA Cup, okay, you can put a bit of emphasis on that. And you're right. I think obviously he's going to go gung ho for the Champions League, but we're nowhere near the quality of winning that. So I think the focus needs to be on getting into the Champions League again. But it's just unfortunate that everyone's getting into this mentality. So, that it's not only you, it's me as well, Steve. I mean, it's just a shame that we're getting into this mentality now that, 5 games into the season just looks like we're not going to win it. Let's just get into the top 4.
Well, that's the thing, if I say to you now, would you take top 4 only this season? You take it.
Yeah,
you'd be delighted, wouldn't you, with top 4? The way that we've started, who knows? We might just go on a 25 match unbeaten run. We have the players to do it. We clearly do. We beat almost everyone last season, and I think we actually did beat, apart from Brighton. I think we beat most teams around us. We beat Arsenal last season. We beat Liverpool. We beat City. We beat Newcastle. We beat Tottenham. We beat them all, so we can do it. It's just doing it consistently and not being figured out, and the players working hard and not getting injured.
Yeah, it seems Brighton have become our new bogey team. 4 losses in a row in the league over the last 2 years, but hopefully we'll get them at the Amex later this season. All right, well, looking out to Bayern this evening, team well and truly in form. They've got their new striker by the name of Harry Kane. Looking at their previous fixtures, they've played 4 domestic games. 1 was a cup. They won that, and 3 games in the league quite comfortably. Versus, obviously, everyone knows what our form has been like. Can you see us getting anything at all in the Allianz this evening?
Ironically, yes, because it's just one of those, isn't it? But
you're an optimist, Steve.
I am an optimist because these players can turn up. As I say, Rashford, what a player he is when he turns it on, but he'll turn it on 20% of the time at the moment, and he has these points in the games. If nothing's going right, then his head goes down, and you might as well bring him off. So the team have it in him to beat anyone, as I've just mentioned. So who knows? It'll be pretty ironic if we beat Bayern and then lose to Burnley at the weekend. But you can just see it happening with this squad. But I'd take a draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I would take a draw. Do I think we'll win it? Most probably not. I just think we've got too many injuries at the back, especially. I mean, Harry Kane kind of knows our capabilities inside out. You know, he most probably has given a few tips to the rest of the Bayern team. I mean, how do you think we'll even set up? I'm not even quite sure, to be honest, based on the injuries that we've got. I think fair enough at the top, you should go Rashford, Højlund. I don't know if he'll go Bruno on the right or maybe even Garnacho.
If he sticks with that diamond, who knows? Rashford and Højlund up top, and then Bruno in behind as a front three. With Bruno and Rashford given a bit of leeway to move around and do whatever. But I think Bayern will be attacking, and what we have done quite well is counter. Maybe not in the first few games of this season, but at points last season we were a very good counter-attacking team. Obviously, with the pace and power of Højlund, if he can run in behind, I don't think De Ligt is the most mobile of centre backs, but we're coming up against Kim Min-jae, who's pretty mobile. So yeah, who knows? It's going to be a tricky one, and yeah, fingers crossed.
Reguilon may get his first start for us in the Champions League.
Yeah,
actually, he looked fairly decent against Brighton on the weekend.
Yeah, he looked really good. He was one of the positives. I thought Dalot played quite well when he was in possession anyway. But it's you say they were our two best I say they were two of our best players, but all three of the Brighton goals came from cutbacks from the right back and the left back's areas. So it's all well and good being decent in possession, but if you're conceding chance after chance from your defensive area, then what's the point of you being there?
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up now. Champions League games have already started, so we're going to catch some of those. All the best to the boys this evening. Let's hope we can get something from the Allianz. But that's it for us for tonight, and we'll be back Monday evening with thoughts from tonight's game and the game on the weekend. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week. Cheers, Steve.